Who am I? I'm just a guy sitting in my garage that has some ideas, who has some theories about life, and decides to put my thoughts out. Why should anybody care? I don't know. I guess because sometimes we have to talk to somebody. Maybe the same reason that I look for people who are looking to find the truth in life, and we all exchange information. So what do I have to contribute? Today I'm going to talk about everything from militaries to corporations to taxes. All the big things that I would usually spend probably half an hour talking about on a video. And I'm going to try to condense it down into a couple minutes by doing a very simple segment that's about the only thing that comes back to us as people, which is drug money. And I guess I should just start out by saying that it was an interesting relation that I made while I was making a map here. I'm going to show you the map, and I'm going to explain the best I can as quickly as I can. So try to follow me. This is not by any means complete. I made this while I was thinking about how important these things are. So I'm going to flip this around, and this is my map. So I'm going to try to hone in here and get as good as I can. Okay. Now I'm going to narrate this and try to dictate this with the drumstick here. Okay, so these are the people, us. This is the government. These are the corporations. This is the military. I'm going to start off with the green. The government is supposed to serve the people. First off, let me tell you that the dotted lines, this is where there's supposed to be service, but it's kind of a joke. So the straight lines, the real lines, are where there's actually, assistance going on, financial or otherwise. And like I said, this is very general. So the government serves the corporations, period. Meanwhile, the corporations, all they have to do to get the government to sponsor them and make them billions of dollars is just give a tiny bit of money back to the government. The actual politicians who are running for office, that is. And meanwhile, the government is supposed to be helping the people, right? Well, the government's assisting the corporations, and this little system's going on. Meanwhile, the corporations own Big Pharma, they own our healthcare industry, and they own our education. And coming off of here, the education, the dotted line is kind of different here. This is prisons, an offshoot of a poor education is often prison. And so over here we have health and pharma. Now, the corporations are paying the doctors big money, and the doctors are back and forth with the health and with the pharma by being sponsored by these huge companies that are paying them, billions of dollars in order to sponsor their medicines. Meanwhile, the pharma is actually, I forgot to run the military to street drugs, but I haven't gone that far yet. Here we've got pharma, which is the street drugs are an offshoot of pharma that allows people to deal with pharmaceutical issues without pharmaceuticals. But here's the thing. Even street drugs that are used for recreation, assuming that they're made here, depending on the drug, the money goes back to the people one way or another. It's the only thing that goes back to the people. Supposedly, the people end up paying for everything. But this is how the tax system works, and we all know this. Okay, so over here, we got the military. It stands by itself. The military uses the education system in order to sponsor their bullshit so they can get more soldiers in there, back to the military, in order to run the war machine. The war machine is based on stealing the friendly resources of the world. Now, this is because we have to finance our operations, whether it be the opium fields in Afghanistan, or the oil fields in Iraq, or any of the various other resources. Whenever we go in and we make an impact and talk a leader down, we do it for the resources, or because they have resources, or something we want. This is pretty obvious by the fact that nobody steps into the Rwandan genocide or anything of that sort. It's all about money. Taxes. The people pay the taxes, okay? Now the taxes, honestly, the corporations are supposed to pay the taxes. And the taxes are supposed to pay for healthcare, they're supposed to pay for education, but they don't. None of this happens. The people pay all the taxes, and the taxes all go straight to the war machine, because the war machine pays the majority, takes a majority of all your tax money. But you know what I left out of this that I didn't even bother to include? Was the Federal Reserve, which goes right here, in which all of this tax money actually pays a fraction of a percent on the Federal Reserve and the Federal Reserve debt that we have to a private company that runs the fiat money currency system that runs our country. If people don't realize that our money is privately owned, they don't really know what's going on, and that's one of the most important things to realize. You know, all of these things, this is just a dumb little map that I drew. Does it mean anything? To me it does. Because it shows me out of all this, everything gets further and further away from the people. Street drugs come back to the people, and that's about it. Of course, I'm not talking about cocaine or, heroin, because at this point they're made overseas. But of course, if they were legalized and it was, regulated, it could be money that goes into the pocket of the states and the people. The drug war is a failed war. There's no need to even stand up for it. I have the legalization belief that every drug should be legalized completely. Once the regulations are taken off, the rest of the world can follow suit and we can move on, because people who are going to use are going to use. We've shown that there's no decline in usage when the prohibition went into effect, or cannabis. It's just increased. So the street drugs are just one aspect of it, of course. All the people I know who grow cannabis or who sell cannabis, they put their money back into the community. And that was my point with the drugs thing, is the only thing that people get back